All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the home stretch of the last segment. Well, that didn't make sense. This is the home stretch of the countdown. I am now on the last segment, and the last segment, of course, is a review of the April 4th edition of Monday Night Raw. Now, this is the post WrestleMania Raw, and this is usually, if past years are any indication, this is usually the year where this is usually the Raw where it's the best of the year, and this one I'm not really gonna call it the best of the year necessarily, but it was a good one. It was a good Raw, but it was a little lackluster. This probably happened because I was expecting a little too much, but it was a good Raw. We didn't really get as many debuts or the debuts we were looking for necessarily, but we got some. So there's that. Match wise, you had Apollo Crews and Tyler Breeze. Now the surprise was, of course, Apollo Crews making his debut. Now they announced it earlier in the show, but I think it would have been a tad bit better if they would have just had him in the match against Tyler Breeze. That probably would have been a better surprise. But and I'm a huge Apollo Crews fan, and he was called up. He was called up a little too soon. I feel like he's been NXT for a very short time. He's probably one of the quicker NXT call ups that we've seen, but he's athletically gifted. He's really, really talented. So I guess it was necessary to call him up. He beat Tyler Breeze pretty quickly. No surprise. It kind of felt like a Superstars or main event match. The show main event, not a main event caliber match, but a match on the show, WWE Superstars or WWE main event. But, Apollo Crews definitely looks like he has a bright future ahead of him. So, great that he was called up. Then you had another huge, not the match itself. It was a tables match with the Dudley Boys and the Usos. This was probably their, I want to say like 800th matchup. Exaggerating, of course, but they are in matches so many times that it's starting to get a little redundant. The Dudleys ended up winning. It wasn't even in a cool way, but they ended up winning, and so there was a commercial break. Then there was another segment that involved a couple other superstars, and then you still had the Dudley Boys on the ramp saying that we're the best, no one can mess with us. And then you heard the music of Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy, and there was a huge pop for those two because those were the two that we expected to make their debut, and they did. And that was the highlight of the night, obviously, because that's everyone wanted it to happen, and the crowd just went absolutely berserk when they came out. They cut a promo on the Dudleys. It's one of the best promos personally I've seen in months on Monday Night Raw. So I really enjoyed it, and that really kind of woke the crowd up because the Raw was kind of dragging on a little bit. It's 3 hours. It always does, but this kind of got people going. So Enzo and Cassidy are looking to do big things now that they're called up. They're probably the most charismatic, entertaining tag team. They probably were the most entertaining and charismatic tag team on NXT, along with the Vaudevillains, who made their debut on SmackDown, by the way, yesterday. Well, it was aired on Thursday. That's how it works. But, definitely that was the highlight of the night, along with, Apollo Crews. Actually, to start off Raw, what happened was, first what happened was the fallout to the Undertaker, Shane McMahon, Hell in a Cell. Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. It started with a promo with Vince McMahon talking about how, of course, Shane lost, and Shane came out and wanted to thank the crowd and say his final goodbyes. And then Vince came with an ultimatum saying, you know what, you can run Raw and I'm going to see how well you do. And Vince thought it was going to be a disaster. And it wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't great, but it was good enough, I guess. So that's pretty much everything that happened there. Then there was this whole, I guess, coronation for Charlotte being the first women's champion, and every other female wrestler was in the ring with her, and they all walked out. Wasn't much to it. So, and then you had, of course, the whole debacle with the Intercontinental Championship. One thing that I completely forgot to mention, and I apologize for this, on the first segment was the winner of the Intercontinental Championship ladder match at WrestleMania was Zack Ryder. Now, that came as a surprise to absolutely everyone. No one, I expected it to for either Kevin Owens to retain, or for Sami Zayn to win it, or for Dolph Ziggler to win it. Obviously, Sin Cara wasn't going to win. Stardust probably wasn't going to win either. And, that's just how it is. It was either going to be those three, or I didn't really expect The Miz either, but Zack Ryder, and I kind of expected the Miz because he's won it before, but Zack Ryder winning it shocked me. It shocked, I'm pretty sure, the majority of people who watched it. And, Zack Ryder, he had this whole emotional promo interview segment where he was like how he met Razor Ramon and got to hold his Intercontinental Championship when he was a kid. And now that he has the IC title, he took a picture of Razor Ramon with him holding Zack Ryder, with Razor Ramon holding his Intercontinental title. So, it was an emotional interview that got people to show sympathy for him. But then on Monday night, he was going to defend it against The Miz, and the match was going on, and The Miz ended up winning with the help of his real life wife Maryse, former WWE diva, and woman, I guess, I don't know, and The Miz ended up winning. So Zack Ryder had the title for a day, which has happened before, but they had the title for a day. Okay, there was also another title defense on Raw, and that was the tag team title match, which should have been on WrestleMania, but I guess not, whatever. It was the New Day and the League of Nations, and the New Day ended up winning, which I was hoping. And then the League of Nations cut another promo about how, nobody's better than them, no one can stop them. Out came the Wyatt family and attacked them. It seems like the Wyatt family, they just attack just cause. They don't choose. There's never a reason why. They explain it later on, but it seems like they just randomly pick, who are we going to have a feud with this time? League of Nations, why not? So, there's that. Okay, then you have the women's match, Sasha Banks, Summer Rae. That was less than 2 minutes, so nothing much to talk about there. Sasha Banks obviously won that one. Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. Obviously, Baron Corbin won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which in reality means nothing. But that means that Corbin got called up to the main roster, and he beat Dolph Ziggler, but no, he didn't beat him. It was a double countout. Double countout. It's like my show. But it was a double countout, so that really didn't amount to much. But then you have the main event. The main event was excellent. Okay, it was originally planned for it to be AJ Styles, Chris Jericho, and Kevin Owens, as they would be having and Sami Zayn, as it'd be a fatal four-way match to determine the number one contender for the WWE Championship that Roman Reigns won. And backstage, Kevin Owens attacked Sami Zayn, making him not able to participate. And so the three came out, and then not Shane McMahon, but Lillian Garcia announced that Shane McMahon has found a replacement for Sami Zayn, and out came Cesaro, who's coming back from an injury in which he's been out for multiple months. It was good to see him. The fans popped like crazy. They chanted his name throughout the entire match. I pretty much knew he wasn't going to win the match, but he always puts on great matches. So, and also you have AJ Styles in there too, and Jericho and Kevin Owens. Come on, you can't go wrong with that. And of course, it was a great match. Now, I was surprised at who won. I thought it was going to be Kevin Owens or Chris Jericho, but they actually gave AJ Styles the win. And now I assume that AJ Styles is going to get buried because, he's a TNA guy. And usually Vince McMahon has this thing with, burying talent from guys who either are WCW or TNA. And I guess because WCW doesn't exist anymore, I guess it's when guys come from TNA, he tends to bury them quickly. And I feel like that was going to happen with AJ Styles, but this is kind of strange because he lost to Chris Jericho at WrestleMania, and now he's the number one contender for the WWE Championship. So, I kind of like it. Now, fans are going to be so upset with this feud, I already know. Because you have AJ Styles. He's the fan favorite. He's the internet darling. He's the wrestler that fans salivate about, saying how, talking about how he's one of the best. I'm not saying he's not. He is one of the best in the world. Don't get me wrong. But he's by far the fan favorite. Roman Reigns is let me not say that. But Roman Reigns is the most hated wrestler in the WWE. He gets criticized because he lacks wrestling skill, although I don't think he's that bad. I've seen a lot worse in the same company at the same time, nonetheless. And also, he lacks some mic skills, which he does. He does. And he gets booed out of everywhere he goes. Everywhere he goes, he gets booed out the building. And could you imagine AJ Styles, the guy that wrestling fans love, losing to Roman Reigns? Honestly, if you thought his boos were loud at the 2014 Royal Rumble or at 2015 Survivor Series or at WrestleMania 32, or WrestleMania 31 for that matter. His moves at WrestleMania 31 weren't that bad, but at WrestleMania 32, can you imagine? Can you just imagine how bad it's gonna be when he beats AJ Styles? AJ Styles is gonna put on a show. He's gonna, He's just gonna put on a wrestling clinic, and Roman Reigns is gonna look strong and no sell most of his moves, and then spear and a win. But that's just how booking works. They're trying to make Roman Reigns look credible by having him beat someone like AJ Styles. So that's probably what's gonna happen. But I obviously can't tell the future. But from what it looks like AJ Styles has a shot at being the WWE champion. Just to add to his list of accolades that he's had in New Japan Pro Wrestling, that he's had in Ring of Honor, that he's had in TNA. Just going to go along with all that. So if I want to talk about the Raw overall in general, it was pretty good. It would have been a good Raw. It would have been a great Raw if it was in the middle of the year or something. But because it was a post-WrestleMania Raw, it was relatively, keyword, relatively lackluster compared to past Monday Night Raws after WrestleMania. Debut-wise, Apollo, Enzo and Cass, we knew it was going to happen, but it was still exciting to see them. Apollo Crews was a surprise. And they announced it before he actually had his match, so that was a tad bit disappointing, but he actually got a pretty big pop as well. I expected Bayley to debut, and she didn't. I'm sure she'll come up soon enough, but I guess she's going to have a feud with Asuka for the NXT Women's title for a little bit before she comes up. And I also expected either Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, or even the Bullet Club, the international indie faction, but they didn't. Well, I was kind of a little bit of a stretch, but it was all right. It was a good Raw. I wasn't entertained from start to finish, but if the Raw is 3 hours, that's never gonna happen. So I guess high points. I'm gonna explain high points. The debuts of Crews and Enzo and Cass. The Fatal 4-Way number one contenders match as the main event was excellent, and that's really it. Everything else was just there. Corbin Ziggler ending with a double count out. You didn't want to have him beating someone like Ziggler because, Ziggler is pretty much at the point of his career where he has nowhere to go. He's won the world title a couple times, but he's never really been a top guy. He's like an upper mid-card type guy. So that's pretty much where he's going to be for the rest of his career. And maybe he wants to put over someone like Corbin. I don't know, but I don't know how fans would take it if Ziggler were to lose to an upstart like Corbin. With Apollo Crews, it was smart because Tyler Breeze is buried. So, Tyler Breeze is at the bottom of the totem pole, so it doesn't matter. You can have Apollo Crews beat him. But having Corbin beat Ziggler, I don't know. And also, Crews is way more talented than Corbin, let's be for real. So, those are my highlights. Lowlights, well, not lowlights or just nothing. It was just really nothing else during that episode was really that interesting. So, there's that. So, I hope you all enjoyed listening. If you all want to listen live, I guess, Fridays at 12, the count out. If you need some pro wrestling talk on Fridays, then I'm your guy. Next week, I'll be, I guess, reviewing Raw and some other things, some other topics, of course. So we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks. After WrestleMania is when we'll see some other debuts. Maybe not the Raw after WrestleMania, but we might see some other debuts. This is when we see new feuds coming. Payback is the next pay-per-view, which is in late April, early May. Don't know the exact date, but it's looking to be a very interesting couple of months. So, with that being said, this is Bobby Bias here, Iona College's voice of professional wrestling. Well, I guess WWE wrestling. Professional wrestling, who cares? So, that is it for my show, and I hope you all enjoyed listening, and I will see you all next week.